Join me today as we put our roofing on our porch roof. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this is to do. Alright, so really the first step in picking out what material you're roofing your structure with is to determine where and when your house that this roof is attached to was built. That tells a lot of the story. And since my miniature structures, for the most part, are set in our time frame, they're set in today, so I use more modern materials. And my favorite roofing is what we're going to put on today, what I'm going to show you. We will, in a future video at some point when I come up with enough ideas and materials, we'll do another one of those cubes like I did with the siding, and we'll do 6 different roofs. But today we're going to put on my miniature equivalent of asphalt shingles. They're super easy, they're super inexpensive, and they just make the house look very modern, very new, contemporary. It's what's on all the houses, all the construction around where I live. This is pretty much what they put on. But you could put anything. You could do a wood shingle, you could do a tile shingle, you could thatch it, you could do any number of things. So like I showed in the last video, I base coated this with black because I prefer a black roof on my miniature structures when I do the asphalt shingles because I think it looks cleaner and it really sets off the color of my siding. So, my material of choice, I'm trying to set the porch down so it doesn't tip over, is sandpaper. And this happens to be 100 grit sandpaper from the dollar store. I forget how many sheets are in the package from Dollar Tree, but it's a lot. I'm thinking it's going to take 2 sheets. Now, important, even if you loved this color, you need to spray your sandpaper with spray paint. I'm using a semi-flat black today because I'm out of flat black. Either will work. If you absolutely love the color of your sandpaper and you want like a beige roof, use a clear sealer on it. You could even do some sponge painting and make your color that way and add some interest to it, but seal it with a spray of some kind. Because the problem we have is sandpaper is designed to sand a surface, and by doing that, the sand comes off. It's not designed to stick to the paper permanently. By spraying it with a spray paint or spray sealer, you're sealing that sand on there so that later on, when you need to clean your dollhouse roof or your porch roof, you won't take all the sand texture off of your roofing. So I'm going to take this piece of sandpaper and another one. I'm going to spray paint just the front side with a black spray paint. When that's finished, probably 2 coats, I'll come back and we'll start marking the back and I'll show you how to cut it. Alright, I have 2 sheets of sandpaper that are all painted and dried. Now I'm going to start marking my roof area and marking the back of my sandpaper. So I like to use, this is black, I like a colored pencil, a light colored pencil. I like yellow. It seems for me to be the most visible. You need to be very careful that you get these lines nice and straight. I'm going to have to turn this just a little more so I can see, because how straight you make these lines, first line needs to be up an inch, will determine how well, your roof goes on. These are guidelines we're going to use to put our roofing on. Now, the first line is an inch from the bottom. Then I'm going to go up a ½ inch, keeping my ruler really straight. Then I'm going to make a line. And another ½ inch, and the rest of these lines are all going to be a ½ inch apart all the way up to the top. I'll do the rest of them off camera and then I'll show you when I get those all done. Also, we have our sandpaper. Now I have 2 sheets and I've painted them both black. We're going to mark the backs of them. And I've gotten to the point where I really prefer to do this with 3 colors of Sharpie markers. For me, it keeps me from making mistakes. So I'm going the long way of the paper, and I'm making a mark every inch. And these don't have to be perfect, they're just your guidelines, so that you get your strips cut nice and straight. These are going to be your roofing, your strips of roofing. And I'm only going to mark one sheet on camera, and then I'll mark the other one and cut it off camera. And I'll get you started on the cutting. And there's going to be a little piece that's short on this end, and we are going to use that. It's not quite, this one is actually, it is an inch. We are going to need a strip that's not cut into strips though. So now, at a 1/2 inch, I have a red pen. Red means stop, right? You'll see why here in a minute. And then I'm going to go to the black line and go a 1/2 inch down. What I'm doing is making a red line halfway between each of the black lines. And I do like a coarse sandpaper. I think it has a better texture. 100 grit is pretty good. I wouldn't go any finer than 100 grit, like 150 maybe if I was really desperate. Now on the first sheet, I'm not going to mark this one. I'm probably won't on the last one either. It's not quite a full piece. Now, we're going to mark the other way every inch with the brown one. And it's really important that you keep these lines straight and that you keep in your mind how you're going to cut, because I've color coded them so that we don't ruin our strips. And I will have a photograph of the back of one of these sheets on the blog post, so be sure and check the blog post for a photo of how this looks. In fact, as soon as I get this done, I'm going to shut the camera off, the video camera off, and go photograph this so I don't forget it. So I'm going to finish this up and then I'll be right back. Alright, so this is all done as far as that goes. So our lines go. Now I've got a craft knife. Whatever knife you're comfortable using, cut only on the black lines. Oops. Really important that you only cut the black lines. Going the length of the paper. And I cut that crooked, so that's going to have to be, well, it doesn't matter. It'll be a flawed place in my roof. Try and be as accurate as you can on these lines and on your cutting. So all the black lines get cut. So now what I'm going to have is a bunch of strips of sandpaper that's painted black on the front, and on the back it's got a bunch of brown lines with a red line running all the way up the middle. Let me cut just a couple more here, and then I'll show you the next step. And then I'll do the other sheet off camera. Alright. Now, take a pair of cheap scissors. Do not use your good scissors. You're going to cut the brown lines only as far as the red line. Now you could get fancy and cut the little corners off depending on the style of roofing you're replicating. This is think we call it asbestos roofing here or something. It's the kind that's on every house, and they come in different styles. You don't have to cut the inch wide. You can vary that depending on the style of roofing. I'll do one more strip on camera. So I cut the brown lines to the red line. Red line means stop. And this will dull your scissors really quickly. When I roofed my Harrison dollhouse, which is my big dollhouse this way, with this system, I actually ruined 2 pairs of scissors. So now we have strips that look like that. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. I will take a photo of these. I am going to turn the camera off. I'm going to mark this piece of sandpaper. I'm going to get everything cut, and I'm going to mark the yellow lines on my roof area, and then I'll be back. Alright, I have the roof completely marked, and I have all my strips cut, and I've pulled off to the side the 2 that were at the very edge of the sheet of paper that are not quite an inch. What we're going to do with these is we are going to glue a solid strip of this across here so that when we put our first strip on top, the foam core won't show through at all. It'll show the same texture that we have on our roofing. And it also lifts up that edge to make a more realistic angle to our roof. Come on. I just partially refilled my glue bottle, so it's not cooperating yet. Whoopsie. There. Whoa. You are not cooperating with me, glue. Well, I will get this part on, and then I'm going to have to work with my glue here. Not sure what's going on here. I found an old bottle of glue and decanted into this, and I think it's a little too thick. Alright, get all the glue off my fingers. And I am going to put this narrow strip, I want to get glue all the way at the end. Put that there. I'm lining it up with the edge of my roof. And a little more. I'm going to cut this so it's a little bit longer than I need it to be, because I want to cut it to size once my glue is dry. So I want this to get dry so I don't shift it when I go to put the next row of roofing on. And in the meantime, I can see what I can do with my glue. Alright, so this glue has had time to set up, and I'm going to very carefully cut that. I may have to touch it up with a little black paint later. Now, we are going to take a row of shingles. We're going to glue it here. I cut off because there's a half one on the end of each one. Do that. We're going to figure out how, well, we can get this one on first. I think I got my glue situation all figured out. I want enough glue on here to hold the shingles, but not so much that it makes a mess. So I'm starting with a complete shingle at the first side, lining the top of this up with that line, and just a little of this row shows. That's what we're after. If I just glue where it's going to show. Now, I want which space is that going to be? Oh, it's actually going to be just the 2 inches. Cut a piece to fit and put that in. Alright. So now we've got our first visible row. And we can put a couple of rows on at a time. I wouldn't do too many, but probably 2 on this first one. But now, because a real roof is offset, we are going to start with a half shingle on the end. I think I actually want glue right along this red line too. It's been a while since I've glued shingles down. And we need a half, find one that has a half on that end. We're going to go to the half, done that. And we can't do that. We're going to need 2 shingles, I think. We need 1 1/2, that's what we need. 1 1/2, I know what I'm doing. Not quite, it's crooked. And I'll trim anything that's left over at the end off when the glue is completely dry. So I've got a little extra here. I'm just folding it up. When I get everything all dry, I'll come through with a straight edge and cut there. So I am going to leave this to dry. And when it's completely dry, so nothing scoots around, I'll come back and we'll put a couple more rows on camera, and then I'll finish it off camera. Alright, so the glue on these is actually dried for a couple of days because I got called into work on a couple of days that I wasn't scheduled. So I'm going to do 2 more rows of roofing here on camera, and then I'm going to do the rest of this off camera today, and I'll come back and show you when I get done. Couple of things I want to talk about. Now, obviously, I talked about when I put these on, we start with a full piece of shingle on the first row and a half one on the next one. I'll have a full one here, a half one on up. Another thing I'm doing, because these strips don't fit all the way across, we have to make a seam. I'm staggering those seams also. Here's one, here's one. The next one will not line up with either of those. I want to stagger those so they aren't so obvious. So let's go ahead and get some glue down. And if you find your shingles are kind of curling up on the bottom, go ahead and add a little extra glue and glue them down. I had to do that with the bottom row. I don't want to use too much glue because I don't want it to ooze out too much. I'm going to add one kind of row of glue here to help hold that down. Now, do I have one that has a full? Yeah. Okay. And I don't want to end with a half one because that one ended with a half one there. So, this here. Now this one ends here, these ended here and here, so I'm well up from where I was. I'm going to kind of measure this and figure out, okay, I'm going to need to go up to here. And let's turn this so you can see that side. Line this up here. And kind of fold it into that corner. We're just going to trim this all off when we're done. When everything is nice and dry, I'll cut this, make a nice clean cut right there. Now, make sure that's all lined up. Let's see if I can do this from this angle. Good. The glue in this bottle is really thick because I found an old bottle of glue sitting on my, in an area I had forgotten I put it. And this one is really, has thickened up over time. And I don't like to do more than about 2 rows at a time because I find that things slide around a little too much. Sometimes in certain weather conditions I can do 3. Right now, here's one. Starts with a half. Now, full shingle here, half shingle here. Make sure I'm lined up with my little yellow line all the way down. That one lines up there, but that's okay because it's up a couple of rows from where it lined up there before. So I'm going to need probably 2 shingles on the end of that. Let's see if I have a short piece. Fit this one in, and after a while you'll be able to kind of guess how much you're going to need on that end piece. Alright, I'm going to let this glue set up a bit, and then I'm going to come back, and over the course of the next couple of hours off camera, I'm going to fill the rest of this roof in. When that's all done and the glue is dried, I'll be back and we'll trim the edge. Alright, I have the roof all the way on. I'm going to do a little bit of gluing down. I'll show you how to do that, and we're going to trim this side. But first, I wanted to show you, this is what I have left from the 2 sheets of sandpaper. So you can kind of judge, 2 sheets of sandpaper will do a roof this size, pretty much exactly. Now, we have this folded up. I'm going to try and get this so that you guys can see and so that I can see. I'm going to put a straight edge. I would normally use my other one, but my other one is out at my desk because I was using it for something else. Normally I would not be cutting towards my hand like this, but I want to have it so that you guys can see on screen as best I possibly can. Let's see if I got these trimmed. Did not cut all the way through. Now that I've got it started, I can come on. I think part of the problem is my knife blade probably should have been freshened before I started this. And my glue on the top one is still wet. Yeah, my glue is not completely dry, and I should really have waited till the glue was dry, but I kind of like to get my video done today so that it can be ready for you guys Sunday morning. Well, I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to turn this around where I can see better and finish trimming this side, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so that is now all trimmed and ready to go. But when you look at the roof from this way, it sticks up a little more than I want it to. I don't know how well that's showing on camera, but I've got a couple of shingles here that are just like really standing up way more than I want them to. So to remedy that, we just need a little bit of glue. Oops, I missed the top. And a toothpick. I'm just going to take a little bit of glue, and the ones that are sticking up way too far, just going to put a little glue under them and stick them down. And I want it to have some lift, at least in some areas, but I don't want them curling up. But I also at the same time don't want it all glued down flat either. I want a little bit of dimension, but not too much. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to glue down the ones that are sticking up really badly, and when that's all done, I'll come back and we'll talk about the finished roof. Alright, so I think we will call this video done. We've got our roof on our porch. I hope you enjoyed this. Remember, there are lots of other ways to do your roof. Lots of materials out there, and I'm sure you'll come up with something fantastic if you choose not to use this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.